Scatterbrains, a trusted name in software development since 1622.
Hello and welcome to this, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, video, recording, blabbering, meandering, mindless wandering. I don't know. I'm going to talk about SkatterTools or SkTools. I don't know. Might come up with a better name. I don't like the name. What is it and how do you install it? What's it good for? Why would you give a crap about it? All that kind of good stuff. Anyways, it's I got enough web browsers installed on here, don't I? I think I need more. Let's go find some more. No, it's not. Okay. Anyways, so this is a Windows 10 machine, and over here I have a configuration manager server, CMO2, running 1812 Insider Preview, and then I also have a my Hyper-V lab here, which has a domain controller, a bunch of other garbage stuff, uh, Active Directory. Um, Anyhow, let's get started. So first thing to do is open up a PowerShell console using Run as Administrator, and because you have to do that to install modules, unless your security is turned all the way off, like a good government institution might be. Let's see, install module sktools. Da, 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 da. This sktools module is up on the PowerShell gallery. It also includes a reference to DBA tools, which I'll mention a little bit more later. And so it will install both of those together if you don't have DBA tools already installed. And we wait. There goes DBA tools. This desktop is hollow, so it has a nice ring to it when you play percussion on it. Kind of like it. Hear that? Kind of cool. It's almost like a cajon, which is not cojones, different word. Cajon is like a box they use in music. You might have seen the two cellos guys playing with it. um, Anyways, God, come on. I think I gave this thing 8 gigs of RAM, and I talk nice to it. You think it'd be faster, more responsive. Come on, I've been good to you. I did DBA tools. Now it's downloading sktools. So sktools, by the way, is built with Posh Server, which is a web server kind of thing, portable web server, I guess you will, made with PowerShell, written by Yusuf Ozturk. It's at poshserver.net. Basically, just took the PowerShell part of that and merged it in, and then stuffed his license and donation and all that README stuff in there with it. So full credit, full props, all that. Okay, so that's loaded. Now if I do import, if I can type import module sktools, it'll import 2 commands. I'll show you those in a second. Okay, in 2 seconds. There we go. Get command module sktools. You got install SkatterTools and start SkatterTools. Install, all it does is create a config file. That's all it does. So you hit that, done. And if you go look over here in your documents folder or my documents folder, you'll see skconfig.txt. If you open that up, you'll see that the first part of it's comments. They have underscores. I don't know. I had to pick a character, and I was tired of using semicolons, so whatever. Sue me. No, don't sue me. I don't have any money. So the only things you really probably need to look at here are going to be these three, and that's your config manager SQL host, which in my case is a 2, my SMS provider, which is also a 2, and my site code, which is also a 2. And the reason being CMO1 and site code P01 imploded after I got too crazy with it after a couple glasses of wine and coffee and matcha tea and whatnot. So save that, close it, go back to your PowerShell window, and then do start SkatterTools. Now there is an option to do port if you want. The default's 8080, so if you have something running on 8080 or need to pick another port, you can. Otherwise, just hit start and go. And what it'll do is it hijacks this console, and now it's sitting in a listening mode. So it's a web listener at this point. So it tells you the port it's on. You get some version info, stupid tired joke thing, and then minimize that. We'll do Chrome. Test it in all these browsers. It's running in Windows authentication mode, which I'll show you where to set that stuff if you need to. So if I go localhost port 8080, Shazam, just like that, you have a burrito with some beer, coffee, and bourbon, and Active Directory and Config Manager. So you got a sidebar menu, and all this is running local. There's no real server. Again, this is Windows 10, right? This is Windows 10. If you don't believe me, hold on. Let's make sure you believe me. Do WinVer, Windows 10, 1803. It's not even the latest Windows 10. How's that? Okay. Okay, so what do you get in here? You get a bunch of tools for looking at things, chasing things down, cross-linking, and I'll show you some of that here in a minute. But it starts off with a search tool. Um, you can add different filters. You can search across multiple things, like where's my cheese kind of thing. So like here, if I want to know everything that begins with or contains W10, I'll say begins with, right? Yeah, I'll do search. Excuse me. There we go. The stuff in green means there's some hits. And if it's not in green, no hits. That's pretty much it. So if I want to go back, I can do that. Or if I want to go back and click on one of these, I can actually go look at these 5 computers that begin with W10. There we are. So I'll get to that in a minute. So if I go into here, this is basically a subset of this one. I have users, which lets me look at all the users. And again, this is in real time. This is using ADSI Searcher API. It's been around in Windows for a while. It's not using the Active Directory PowerShell module, so you don't need to install RSAT for this. You don't need to install the Config Manager console for this either, because I'm not using the Config Manager app commandlets, and I'm not using Active Directory commandlets. Doing it the old-fashioned way with, a pair of pliers, a screwdriver, some duct tape, coffee, and plenty of model glue, and it works great. It's actually pretty fast. As you can see here, if I click on something, it's pretty quick. That's real-time queries. So what I do is a technique called shaping. I fire a query, pull all the data back, filter it on the fly based on whatever this UI control is doing. And this is all basic HTML and CSS. And I'll show you in a minute, all of this is PowerShell. It's all PowerShell. Okay, so again, I can filter on things here. I can find like everybody who's a senior engineer or works in the engineering department or whatever, and I can also drill into one of these users, metaphorically speaking, and look at their properties in Active Directory, last time they logged in, been a little while. This person probably passed out after Thanksgiving. What groups they're in. I can remove them from groups. I can add them to groups here. So let's say they're not, it only shows me a list of who's not in, what groups are not in. my mouth will catch up. So let me add them to Norfolk. Success, return. The reason I put that stopgap in there instead of having a little rolling ball progress bar is that sometimes it's a little slow, and if it comes back and it's not there, people think it didn't work. So they try it again, and it's already there. So it says, can't add them. They're already in that group. So I just have it pause and say, yeah, it was successful. So at least it got back a response from the request, and then you can go back to the page. Wasn't that exciting? I know you couldn't wait for me to explain all that. All right, so groups, pretty much the same thing. The layout's a little uglier. I'm working on it. Just give me some time, a little more coffee. But if I scroll down here to, like, say, I don't know, Norfolk, look at them. I can see some properties about the group. I can do that. Same kind of thing. So add, remove members, but you get the idea. Computers, very similar. There's all my computers. Again, I have a small lab. You might have millions, trillions of computers. I don't know, whatever the limit is. And you can filter on the operating system. I can't filter on the build yet. Working on that. Last login. This is the last time this machine logged into the domain, not the last time a user used it. So this one's been powered off for a while, as you can tell. If I go and look at a particular machine, like say, I don't know, I'm working on 002, and so I'm looking at 001 across the network. This first page goes to the Active Directory properties. All the rest of these are doing WMI queries against the machine as long as it's online. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's not online. It looks like Stevie Wonder in a dark room. I'm kidding. No offense to anybody who's blind. Just joking. Events. I'm clicking around pretty fast. Let me show you what's in here. So you can query the BIOS, the computer system. If you're into WMI, that's the Win32 computer system. This one's Win32 logical disk. These are the event logs, application and system. It's filtering right now, hard-coded on errors that were within the last 24 hours. So I'm going to add some more drop-downs, I think, and probably split that out at some point. This is just where it is right now as of 1901.23.1. And this version number changes quite often. So if you've installed this, check in a week, because I guarantee within a week it's had at least one or two updates. I'm working on this thing a lot, mostly to get away. Network interface, you can see the NICs, um, operating system information, probably way more than you care to read. Processor, what software is installed, what startup commands are set up on it. Usually it's OneDrive, yep. And Windows Defender stuff. What else? Updates, that's the hot fixes. I think this thing's behind. What user profiles are on it? When were they last used? You get the idea. So you can poke at a lot of stuff. Now, if I go to a machine that's off the wire, let's say this guy here, and I try to poke at the logical disks, yeah, it's gonna tell me it's not accessible. Okay, so you get the idea of what it can do, hopefully. Going down the list here, I have forest properties, which shows me a mix. FSMO, it's a mix of forest and domain. I'm not working in a multi-domain environment, so if you have a multi-domain environment and you run into some issues, let me know. Let me know what you would like to see. Um, in general, this whole app, just share some feedback. Let me know, hey man, this thing's a piece of crap, or no, hey, I like it, but you need to do this. I don't even care if it's, hey, can you make the color green? You know, anything. I just, I go crazy if I don't have a side project to work on after work. Okay, so sites. Oh, I skipped domain. Domain, you get your basic properties, and again, these are not canned HTML files. It's doing queries with PowerShell and rendering the HTML on the fly, and I'll show you how that works here in a minute. Sites and site links. I'll skip over OU Explorer for a second. I'll get to that. AD reports are some custom reports to show you counts of users by the last time they logged in. Disabled, password never expires, how many are about to expire in 14 days. Um, Same with computers, except for just the last time they logged on. The OU Explorer is sort of a work in progress, kind of a proof of concept. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not, but the idea is that you can drill down and sort of in a Explorer type motif, look at what you have out there. It's restricted right now to only looking at users, groups, and computers. It won't show things like shares or printers or anything like that. God, I hate the sound of my voice on recording. It's want to get somebody like James Earl Jones to do this. I can't afford him. Config manager. So, let me back up. So, config manager is broken up into assets, which loosely correlates to assets and compliance in the console. Software, inventory, which is also splits off from reporting, sort of, which is under monitoring. Monitoring and site, and then I have two links that are just for the app itself. Under assets, we have users. It's going to look very similar to the AD users. Again, you can filter on different things. You can filter this way. Um, you can look at devices. And if I go to a device like, I don't know, that one, can look at different things from Config Manager. So this is querying the database, and it's using DBA tools to do that. So I was writing a lot of .NET ADO.NET code and even legacy COM ADO code, like ADO DB record set connection and so forth and so on, and also doing data sets and data repeater controls and things like that. Um, and I realized that DBA tools, kind of like the SQL Server module, just makes it so much easier. It's one line of code, and I basically built a function wrapper for it so it can take either a raw query or a reference to a file, so I can feed it .SQL files, which I have a whole bunch of them in here. I'll show you where all that stuff is here in a minute. So I can look at the disks on this machine. Again, this is not the same as Active Directory. This is looking at the SCCM database. Network properties, optional features. If they're installed, they're in green. I got to work on this font. Oh, by the way, this is using dark theme. There's a light theme also. I'll show you that, but I'll show you where to set that. And you get the general idea. There's some tools. I'm going to be working the tools from Active Directory over to this. Right now they're not here, but if I show you that, let's go to that one, I guess. If I go to tools here under Active Directory computers, these are working. So I can invoke group policy update, client CCM client repair, which I know is kind of crossing the feature line here, but nah, it was a demo. Restart computer. I'll probably add some more. I'm not trying to reinvent right-click tools. They've already done a fantastic job. I just would want to put a few basic things in here. I may add a few more, but I'm not. I don't plan on trying to compete with them on that because they do a fantastic job. So hats off. But going back to devices, I can also look at collections, which also allows me to add this machine to collections it's not already in. And now this is filtering only on direct membership collections. So if there's collections out there that are query based, which you'll see that they're not in here, like all systems, this is going to show me what it's a member of, but it won't let me add this to collections that are query based because I have a personal peeve about mixing query and direct rule memberships. Go ahead and throw rocks at me. I don't care. I have a computer screen in front of me. You're just going to hit the screen. Miss Trader Joe's matcha tea. All right, so where was I? So you can add them to a collection here if you want to. I don't have the links yet to remove from collection. I'm working on that. But if I go down here to user collections, similar to groups, I can see how many members, if there's any variables assigned, what it's limited to. I can filter this way. I can filter by whatever. I can also go to device collections. I can look at, properties of the collection, what members are in the collection. This one has a query rule, so I can see the actual WQL statement that forms the query for this collection. If there's any deployments to it, nope. Any variables, nope. Tools, I don't have any yet, working on that. But if I go here to, let's see, I don't think I have any that have Office. I'm not sure if I have a variable on that one. No, I don't. I have a deployment though, right? Yep. So I have a deployment here. I can look up the advertisement, the package. I can drill into that, so I can look at the advertisement. I'm trying to cross-link things. It's sort of a general theme is that if I can find it here and it's got something that relates to something over there, I want to make it link automatically, or just make it link. So I'm working on that. Hopefully you're still awake. Otherwise, I'm just talking to a microphone and everybody's snoring. Okay. Um, Billy Mays, rest in peace. All right, so software. These are I regrouped this a little bit, and not because I'm trying to say that there's something wrong with the console. Console does aggravate me a little bit. I feel like it needs to be redone, but that's for another, crack smoking party to talk about. Um, this is basically all the stuff that could be deployed. So I have one that just groups them all because under the hood they're kind of lumped together as, oh, come on, man, don't pop up now. They're all lumped together as a type of package, right? And they just get a package type code that tells you whether or not it's an application or a task sequence or whatnot. All these do is sub-filter that, or filter it. Sub-filter is not right. Okay, so I can look at applications, packages, operating system images, operating system upgrade packages, boot images. I'll be working soon, I hope, to have some drill down on these boot images, like optional components. I'm close. I have some stuff I'm testing right now. Software updates, again, I want to be able to drill down into things like groups and packages. Not there yet. Same with ADRs. Task sequences. I need like a whole week off of work just to drill into how to code that so I can render it by HTML. I know where the pieces are. It's just pulling them out in a logical manner. Uh, and where I don't get so mad, I start throwing four-letter words around. And scripts, last one. Scripts does have a drill down. However, I will say this. You can't look at the code raw because it is encrypted like Chinese. Now, a lot of people think I'm making that up. So what I'd like to do for your viewing pleasure is go into SQL Management Studio. I need to update that. That crunching sound in the background, that's my fish starving for food, eating the rocks off the bottom of the aquarium tank. I'll be there in a minute. All right, so databases, da 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 da. You can tell I spent a lot of time in here. It's down here under V. Scripts. I think this is the right one. Yeah, open the file. There you go. Presto. Chinese, all right? Or North Korean. I don't know. Mongolian. I don't know what it is. It's something I can't read. So, anyhow, um, all I can tell is that it correlates to the length of the code. So the shorter the code, the shorter the characters in this field. There you go. So I don't know what kind of encryption that is. Chinese encryption. I'll just call it that. Sorry if you're Chinese. I don't mean to offend anybody. All right. So back over here. So I can see some properties about it, but I don't have any way to show the actual code. All right. Moving along. Under inventory, this is where I have some information about stuff that's in the environment. So software inventory is about the software collected from add remove programs or installed software actually. So actually VGS installed software categorized. Yeah, gotta say in a more authoritative voice. So these are what products are found from inventory, how many installs there are, product code, publisher, version, so on and so on. So I can look at this one, drill down and say, okay, how many machines have it? Oh yeah, two, these two. Which two? These two. And I can drill into them and find more information. Same with software files, except that's being collected from the files inventory, which is part of software inventory. So if you have like star.exe, that's where this is coming from, which is why it takes a little bit longer to load. A little bit longer to load. Hey, day now. There we go. Yeah, a little bit slow. I think I'm going to work on this being filtered. And I do have some options to like automatically jump to a sub-filter. Like you saw that alphabetic strip of tabs. It defaults to all. I could have it default to A, but even A might be long. No, A might not be long. I don't know. I'll make it so you can configure that in the config file. We'll get there. So this file here, I might be adding another field like default tab start or something like that. Yeah, I'll do that. Stay tuned for a future update. So the idea here is you can see these are, let me zoom up to the top, get you some motion sickness. You'll see I have a couple of copies of 7z.exe, that's part of 7-zip, and you'll see two of them are the same version, but they have different sizes and different file IDs. File ID is like a signature identifier that identifies this unique combination of properties. So there's two that are like this and two that are like that. That's possible they might be the same two machines. Who knows? Let's find out. So we go to this one. It's O1 and O2. Go back and go to this one. It's O1 and O2. So check it out. They both have a 7z.exe with different build numbers or different build configurations, probably because this one is in the chocolatey tools path. And where's the other one? the same one again, didn't I? God, kids don't do drugs. Yeah. So this one's under program file 7-zip. So that's why. So there are different paths, and they get slightly different file size values. That means I probably did something stupid on those machines, which wouldn't surprise me. Okay, so you get the idea of files in a nutshell. I'll be adding a tab strip to the top of that. In fact, let me write that down while I'm on the demo. Files, menu, tab, strip. There, got my own feature request. Okay, custom reports. These are reports that are saved from queries built in SQL Management Studio and exported as SQL files. So they have a .SQL extension. And I'll show you where those are in a minute. They get installed with the module. They're under a reports folder, which is buried down in it. Assuming, there's not a permissions issue, which there shouldn't be if you have admin rights. You can edit those files. You can add your own. You can dump your own in here, whatever. Just make them so they run, and you can get things like, I don't know, operating system detailed. So you can get some really quick reports. Again, using DBA tools, just calling the file object, and it just reads it, opens it, fires it through, stuffs it in a wood chipper, puts some butter coating on it, bakes it in the oven. It's all good to go. Now, if you notice some of these have summary chart, and some of these have bar chart. So if you include in the name summary chart, bar chart, or pie chart, it will generate a Google chart, and I'll show you what that looks like. So by site name, it's only 100%. It's only one. So there you go. So summary chart does both a pie and a bar. If you just want one, a good example of that is this top 10 installed software products, and I realize the font looks horrible when I move the mouse over it. That color scheme needs some work. There you go. So top 10, there's a nice little chart. It's a little small. I need some feedback. You guys let me know what works for you. I base all this stuff off what people go, hey, it'd be nice to have this. And if you're nice to me and tell me a good joke, I make it top of the list, that kind of thing. Amazon gift cards work too, by the way, and Starbucks. So there's a bunch of canned reports in here for devices, software. There's a site one, software updates, that sort of thing. So they're not super sophisticated. Um, they're not going to be like Garth does. Garth Jones's reports. Shout out to Garth. Um, Party on Garth. The They're just there to show that you can make your own, that kind of thing. Again, proof of concept. Discovery methods, this is under site, so I can look at the basic settings. Is it enabled? We can also drill down into basic configuration settings. Very basic. I'm going to be working on cleaning up these. This is raw data, as you can tell. If you've looked at the tables or the views in SQL, I'm not doing a whole lot of massaging on these. It's just pretty much, here it is. Have a nice day. I'm going to try to clean these up, make them look prettier. AD Forest, this is the AD Forest Discovery and Publishing. It gives you some information about stuff, although I still haven't been able to find out what last discovery status of 11 is. I found discovery status, but it stops at like 7 or 8, so I don't know what 11 is. So if anybody knows, give me a shout. Boundary groups, I can drill into those. I can see some properties, what boundaries are within it, what they're like, what types they are, what ranges they are, what systems are assigned to them. That should have been auto-linked. I gotta fix that. Another note. BG group. Site system link. Hey, we're live. Okay. Distribution points. I said distribution points. There we go. There we go. So we have some basic information about distribution points and a bug. I'll be working on that bug. Summary tasks. These are basically under the hood tasks. Which ones ran, status code, last result. Maintenance, or excuse me, summary task certificates. I'm losing my track here. You can't change anything here. It's just going to show you what certificates are associated with config manager. So You can see the type, the key type, the the valid dates from, to, whatever, whether it's approved or blocked and that sort of thing, as well as what it's issued to. Maintenance tasks, you can see the site maintenance tasks, just a summary of what's enabled, what days it runs, what times it runs, they run. Roles, this is just raw data, just showing you the roles in the system, how many members are there under number of admins, whether it's built-in or custom, what admins are in the system and what roles they have. That's everything now under Config Manager features. So I've covered all the Active Directory and Config Manager features, and we're at 30 minutes. Man, I'm rocking. This matcha stuff is good. Hold on. Okay. Under resources, I have a link here to the Config Manager document site from Microsoft. So nothing fancy, just jumps out to that. I have a page for downloads. I try to put some useful stuff here based on things that I've used and recommended and been recommended by other people. So if you don't know who these people are, seek them out on Twitter. They are freaking awesome. Maurice, Nicolaj, Anders, Jason, Johan, Michael, David. Well, Ola doesn't do a whole lot of social media. Brian, all these guys. I throw their names around like we go out and play golf. They probably wouldn't know me if I walked up on them. Although I did sit next to Maurice at a tech, was it Ignite? Yeah, he sat next to me. Nice guy. Um, Learning is a bunch of links to learning stuff. A lot of the same people. Also adding here some stuff from like Justin, another Jason, Michael, Anders, Peter, Michael, other Michael, Mike. A lot of good stuff. Even this guy. What an asshole. Did I say that out loud? Acknowledgements are links to things that I used building the site. So these are all things that were useful in making the code that makes this work. So I'm trying to basically give credit where I found the answer to the how to make this thing work kind of thing. I also embed it in the code if I don't forget. So support, there's a link to settings. This basically is just pulling up that skconfig txt file. You can change it here, so you can change light to dark, or dark to light. Change the site code settings, site settings. You can turn on whether or not it's going to allow you to mess with config manager. It's on by default. Debug enabled. All that does is add a link on the page so you can actually have it spit out some verbose information on each page. If you save this and change it, you do have to go back to this console, kill it, restart it. So I can show you what that looks like if I do it. So let's do that live. I'll kill that. It's probably going to die when I do this. I should have done it after. Let's see, did it save it? No, it did not. Let me just save it light. Here, we're live. Let's watch this space shuttle implode in front of everybody. So we'll restart this. So all you have to do each time, you can set this up to run as a job, by the way, or run as a startup. There's some instructions on poshserver.net on how to make this a job that runs automatically. So I'll do import module, sktools. Shouldn't take as long to load this time, I hope. Okay, and then I'll do start SkatterTools. Okay. Minimize that. Refresh. And Shazam. We have light theme, which still has a dark image. All right, so if you like that theme better, there you go. I can add others. I'm open to whatever you guys think would be cool. I don't know what color schemes are in style anymore. I'm old, you know. I haven't kept up with all the rap artists out there and whatnot. There's a help page. Doesn't have a whole lot yet. I need to update that. License, blah, blah, blah. There's acknowledgments. About. About will show you install path. This is where the module gets installed. So if I take that, jump down to here, I can go right to the module, and again, the version will change depending on the version you have installed. You'll see a bunch of stuff in here, and you'll see like there's the module manifest file, there's the module loader. Um, I have the two command files, install and start, and then there's web UI. Now these other folders, by the way, before I jump in there, jobs, modules, packages, web root, those are all part of Posh Server. And again, I just merged Posh Server in. Shout out to Youssef. Fantastic. I know people threw a lot of other options at me, and I looked at some of them, and a lot of them look really cool. But based on the way I was writing this code, it seemed like the best fit, and it works really well. So rather than make you go out and install it, I just merged his code in and give full credit. So hopefully everything's cool. The license agreement looked cool. If not, if they come to arrest me, I don't know. I'll be somebody's prison wife, I guess. But anyway, so under Web UI, this is where all the code lives, and you'll notice here that it's all PS1 files. It's all PowerShell. It is all PowerShell. Even this About page. If I go to this About page right here, pull it up in Notepad++ because I'm too cheap to open up anything else. That's it. Now that's a really basic one. This one isn't doing a whole lot of logic. It's just rendering a table as a string, and then I just shove it out the door and lock the door behind it. Okay, so you'll see it's got some inline variables right there, if you can make that out. Just one big string, page title, done. If I do another one, like let's say, I don't know, let's pick a more advanced one. AD Forest. This is doing a little bit more work. So this one's actually doing some processing of the page title, um, getting some information about the schema version, because I was too cheap and lazy to make that a function wrapper. Sorry about that. Ooh, same with that one too. I need to make those functions. Oh, God, this is ugly. What idiot wrote this crap? All right, so then I'm fishing out all the stuff here. This is really ugly looking code. I apologize. If you're trying to stab yourself in the eyes, I hope you're wearing safety glasses. All right, so anyways, right here is where I render the code. And again, I could have done this cleaner. This is pretty ugly. I should have done it more like that. Might have, oughta, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But there it is. So you get the idea. It's all just PowerShell rendering into a text string, and the text string just gets picked up by my function call. You don't have to do it this way. If you look at his USS examples for PoshServer.net, you can build almost anything with what you're doing. You can make your own web forms. Heck, you can run it with PHP. You can run it with Node.js. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. So anyways, just wanted to give you an idea of what's under the hood. So under Web UI, is where a lot of queries are. These queries are ones that get used by things like CM assets. When I'm clicking on that, it's actually fetching the file, handing it to DBA tools, and running it. That's all it's doing. So that one right there is CM users right there. And you can see it's a very basic, bare bones, meat and potatoes SQL query saved in a file. That's all it is. Reports are the same way. It's just that I name them a little bit more readable because they actually get rendered in the list down here under inventory. You'll notice it just takes the name. So devices, counts by 80, site name, summary chart. If you look here, you'll see, yeah, 80 site name, summary chart. And if I look at that, same kind of thing. Now again, you want to form these so that they'll be usable by a chart. So generally you want to have an X and Y type of Cartesian layout. So in this case, it's items plus counts. So what is it? How many? And then that lays out into a nice tabular form, which is easy to make a bar chart or a pie chart. Okay, so that's what I'm doing there. So pie charts work great up to a point, and bar charts work great up to a point. If you get past like 10 items, it's going to get squished. You can change that if you want. You can change that to top 10 if you wanted to, like distinct top 10 or whatever. You can change them. Anyways, just wanted to show you where they are. So that is that. So here's all the code. All this ugly stuff is in here. There's also the license, the README, and the donate for PoshServer.net. So there's information in here about using PoshServer.net. And if you look under acknowledgments, I have a link here to his site. This is Posh Server. You can download it from here. I did the full install. Works great. And to give you another poke at this, if I pull up the config file, the top half of this is just the standard generic PoshServer.net settings. That's all that from down to like line 39. So to walk you through that, there's the default document. So this is very similar to an Apache setup or an IIS setup. You have a default document. You have the authentication settings. Like I turn off basic. I turn on Windows authentication. I turn off directory browsing. You can turn it on if you want. Logging is set to daily. So all that stuff's built in. I don't have to go write all that code. This is, again, shout out to Yusuf. Fantastic, nice utility to build on top of. You can set IP restrictions on with a whitelist. I don't have it turned on. You can set content filtering with a blacklist. I don't have that turned on either. If you're using PHP, you can set up the interface to PHP right here, including your link to your CGI executable. Everything below that, all the way down, is all SkatterTools, crack smoking, glue sniffing goodness. And it's a lot of junky code in here, but it works. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed this ride, and I hope your family's not mad at you for taking time away from more important things. Thank you, and have a good evening. Take care.